Hello, everyone. Welcome to the National Parents Union and the Nightly Restorative Check-In. I am Dr. Enjolie Laferie. It is Friday, January 8th, 2021. And this year already is turning into a unique experience. There's other words I want to say that I'm just not going to say. I really hope that this year is going to be better than 2020. But that remains to be seen. I'm also being really intentional about using the year, as opposed to saying Happy New Year. I want to acknowledge that for a lot of cultures, right, this is a new year on a Gregorian calendar, but for different cultures, they celebrate other New Years. So happy 2021 according to the Gregorian calendar. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I am here in Arizona. I am on O'odham land in the Sonoran Desert. The Nightly Restorative Check-In is the brainchild of Marisol Queveda Rerucha. She hosts the show on Mondays and Wednesdays, and this Wednesday show was really good. She had Harry Lopez on. I really encourage you to go back and check out the show. But anyway, when she thought about the conception for the show, we all need somebody to kind of check in with, right? We need to check in with others, and others need to check in with us. So when I think about a Friday, my desires, my wishes are to chill, to eat some good food, to be with the people that I care about and that I love. And then to be able to just have that time, right? That time to have that deep conversation about how your week went, what's really up, where you don't have to worry as much about what you have to do the next day. So Marisol brought me on to her show, I was one of her first guests. And on that show, I introduced a technique titled the 4-7-8, which is a breath pattern. And I've learned that as my work as a psychologist and a hypnotherapist. So Marisol and I like to maintain the integrity of the show, and we start our show with that breath pattern. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. And we do that 4 times around. And as you're exhaling, you really want to kind of try to stretch out your breath. So it's almost like this holding and releasing at the same time. If it's your first time, it might be a little challenging. I'll admit the first time I used this breath pattern, it did not make sense to me. It was not relaxing. And then I tried it again now that I knew what I had to do. And since then, it's one of my most favorite patterns that I use. I use it to kind of transition from moment to moment or meeting to meeting. When being physically going to meetings was a thing, I would use it as I walked from one meeting to the next. But it's backed by research to help you with your sleeping and also to reduce anxiety. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like you can't go back to sleep, try this while you're in bed. Don't get up, and then see if this helps you return back to sleep. Every time I share that, someone let's say at a speaking engagement, somebody will come back and tell me the next day, it worked. So fingers crossed. Okay. Sorry, I always have to calm myself down before we do this. So I always recommend that you find something to focus on. If you can close your eyes, that's great. If not, find a focal point. And the reason is because our visual sense is one of our greatest senses for most of us. And so we get distracted when something crosses our visual field. All right. Just quieting myself down. All right, so go ahead and, get in the position that you plan to be in. If you can, close your eyes. If they need to stay open, it's okay. Take a natural breath. And then when you're ready, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, go back to your natural breath. Hopefully, you're feeling okay. Some of the ways that we realize that we know that we've entered a relaxation response as opposed to a stress response is maybe you're able to take a fuller breath. Maybe you feel like your shoulders dropped. Maybe you kind of notice, I'm pointing up to my eyes because this always happens for me. I end up getting kind of almost teary. So if any of the waterways are activated in your body, those are all part of the parasympathetic system. That means the system in your body that you don't control. So, all right, sometimes people ask me, like, what do certain reactions mean? Okay, so I've introduced myself a little bit professionally. I wear many hats, and I want to make sure that I introduce myself personally and also just by way of my community. So I am originally from Southern California. I am Afro-Cuban. We're Taino and Arawak on my dad's side. My mom is from Guatemala, so we're Mayan. Some of you have seen my sister and brother. They were on the first season. Actually, some of my very first guests. I also have now a 21-year-old daughter. I don't even know how that happened, but anyway, she's 21 and doing great and amazing. I'm also a member of the Siwa Patli Collective. So the Siwa Patli Collective focuses on Indigenous mothering, and so we like to say that we focus on issues from womb to tomb. And we support women right through their issues from womb to tomb. I can feel like my cobwebs, you guys. Like it's been like 2 weeks and I haven't seen you all, and I'm like, don't know my introduction anymore. All right. Quick announcements. I want to recommend and suggest that you become a member of the National Parents Union. See, I was going to forget our name. You can do that by going on our website. It's free. It just allows us to communicate with you in different ways. For sure, like and share all of the content. Absolutely like and share. Take a moment to like and share this show so that people can be blessed by the content. We just had a town hall yesterday. Yes. Why am I getting all confused? We just had a town hall yesterday. We had Dr. Dolores Huerta on the show, along with all of our amazing NPU colleagues. It was wonderful. I got so nourished by so many people. And that's an example of some of the events that you can find out about maybe more readily or more quickly if you're a member. The next town hall is scheduled for February 4th, so look out for details for that as well. All right, so let's get to our guest. I'm super excited, you guys. I'm always excited for like all the guests, but I'm definitely excited for Christina. So our guest is going to be Christina Laster. She is the Director of Policy and Legislation for NPU, but she is also an education, civil rights activist, and also humanitarian. She is just this amazing, she's a mama of four. I've just only seen the two. A mama of four, a grandmother. I just want to bring her in and allow her to say hi to her and allow her to introduce herself. Hey, Christina.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello to everyone that's watching. I am Christina Laster, the Director of Policy and Legislation, and I am a civil rights activist in education and a humanitarian. And so I am so glad to be able to be with you all today. And I am excited for 2021. We had a wonderful journey. I mean, there's a lot that we learned last year, even though there were some challenges that we faced, but we overcame and we're here today. And so I'm excited.
Good for you. I was excited. I think my excitement is sobered a little bit, like since the issue, not even the issue, the failed coup right on the Capitol building. And we can talk about that. Well, I don't know, we can talk about it right now. Really, there's other things we want to do, but it's been sobered, and I think I'm just reminded, like, that's why I'm so intentional about like hey, in other cultures, this is not the new year, and like this might just be a continuation of some part of 2020. But I am hopeful. Those of you who know me, like I am probably like a little bit Pollyanna-ish of like always seeing the positive. So I think it's all part of a larger and necessary change. But yeah, if I told you what I really think, I'd have to use some expletives, of like what kind of shit this is. So okay.
And, we stay hopeful even in the midst of trials and tribulations. If you lose your hope, if you lose your faith and things are going to be better, then you are ceasing to exist in some way, and you become like on a remote control, like kind of existence that isn't meaningful either, right? And so I think in our decisions, when we wake up in the morning, we can choose hope or we can choose doom, right? And what is it gonna benefit us to choose to look at things in a grim or doom way, even though reality, right? I'm not saying like I want you to go into some psychosis, but reality looks a certain way. But there's so many things at play that we don't really know how it's going to end. And so we can't be predictors of the future, but we can be molders. And so that's the exciting part.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And even from a psychological lens, I could even get with you spiritually, but from a psychological lens, we can't ever know like everything that's going to occur and to happen. I would say I consider myself to be an intuitive person. So even as an intuitive person, we can't know everything. We don't have all the information at hand. So if we're going to delude ourselves, and I say that in the most healthy way possible, if we're going to delude ourselves, delude yourself in an upward way, right? Delude yourself in a way of thinking that things are going to be okay. Totally agree. So let's finish out. Let's round out your introduction. I kind of gave some background about who you are. Who else are you in your community, in your personal life, or other parts of your professional life that you'd want to share with the audience?
So, I am a California native. I was born and raised in San Diego. And, I had the opportunity to really be born into diverse culture experiences that really shaped who I am today. I am Black Latina. And so I like to just say that. Mm-hmm. And, just being able to share across demographics and not having that boundary from a young age and being able to partake in just the rich cultural, not even just even the biodiversity in California, right? Because we have like oceans, mountain ranges, deserts. I think that really shaped who I am as far as what I've been able to see and experience. And I'm very blessed in that way. I've traveled, to other places, and I realized like, growing up here, I've had an experience that other people have not had. And I think that's helped to shape me. More so educationally, I, went to wealthy, affluent neighborhoods for school. That's not the experience for what we see our children have today, that access and opportunity, right? And, I was a part of the magnet gate system of busing. And so I just want to be clear about that. At that time, I didn't recognize that that's what I was a part of, but, I'm grateful for my education nevertheless. However, I've always been one to be concerned about why other children didn't get on the bus with me, even at a young age, right? I would leave the inner city of San Diego and go to the wealthy, affluent neighborhood of La Jolla, California for school, an hour and 15 minutes each way. And when I got there, I was the only Black student in my class. And I would think, where are the other kids, right? And then going back home and not being able to connect in some kind of way to this children that were my neighbors, right? Because I had a totally different educational experience. My field trips were different. My lunch was different. There was no connection. And so that was a point where I realized that there's some disparities as a child. Like there is something wrong with this when I get to go ice skating at the University Center mall on the weekends, and where's everybody else that looks like? And so, I just remember that as a child shaping me for what I do today. And I did go to the University of San Diego, got my bachelor's in political science and pre-law. I did their pre-law program. But then I decided that my fight would be better taken if I was well-rounded in the areas of law and economics. So I got my master's in business administration, worked for the school district for 13 years, early childhood education and special education. But I also realized that the disparities in the things that existed in the system, I was not going to be able to fix from inside. And so I ended my career per se for working in public schools after that 13 years, and I decided to pursue other goals as I began to build my family. I had children at that time, but then I got married and I had two younger children. And I saw that the way that their education and the outcomes were nothing like what I had experienced, right? And I had to fight for every single thing. You name it, meal accommodations, I mean, unbelievable stuff, really small things. I started to look around and recognize that, this is the situation for a lot of people. And I was blind when I was working in the system in a sense, because I had access to the teachers and the staff that were working with my older kids. And I could just call them up and say, hey, look, I got your kids back. Like, come on, what's that? And it wasn't the same when I stepped out of that system. And so that's when I began to battle. But after battling for so long, not only for me and other parents, I decided that I was no longer going to fight the system because their behavior remained the same, consistent, rigid, year after year, spinning my wheels, feeling like a hamster on that, that little
on the wheel, yeah.
And it wasn't going to work. So I had to change my behavior, right? But at the same time, I did look into the civil rights laws and things like that. I was the education chair for the NAACP for some time, worked for the California Policy Center as their statewide community organizer for some time. And here I am today in that battle, in that pursuit for access and opportunity for our children to a high quality education.
Sorry to interrupt you. You're such a linear thinker, and so you're able to deliver that story in such a linear way, but I'm sure it didn't happen that way. Like you're so carefully weaving together all your experiences. I wanted to relate to an early part of your growing up years. And also kind of, it explains, right, some of the reasons why I appreciate you so much. So I also went to predominantly white schools, right? As a kid, it was really important for my parents for us to go to Catholic school. And, I'm grateful for that experience. It gave me a lot of structure. I think it set the bar for high expectations, but I think I was, and gosh, I used to know this off the top of my head. I think I was one of like 8 Black children in the entire school, right? Which is more than what you had. So it is an interesting experience, right? And then also from the perspective of after Latinidad, right? Of having and growing up in Southern California as well, not in San Diego, but kind of outside of greater LA area, right? Having people not understand, right, what it is of like, hold on, I think you're Black, but you speak Spanish and all these kinds of things. So anyway, you do a lot for me. You, Maritza, the different people here in MPU do a lot for me to be able to see myself. And so I appreciate you for that.
Thanks. And we appreciate you that. And so I just want you to know that. I think that what really shaped my fight to be laser focused was when I checked in 2019. Okay, we're just talking about 2019. I checked the data for the elementary school that I attended, and I found out that still in 2019, 35 years later, y'all, I'm telling my age, there were not enough Black students on the report card to be able to report on because it would breach their confidentiality. I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me it's taking 3+ decades, right, to move this so-called integration to where children have access to a high quality education and you don't even have enough students, at that point I was set. It just really, everything set for me, and I was determined to battle for educational justice.
That's beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Like, what is? I'm totally going off script because we're just like talking, But what are some of the like projects, the most notable projects or work you've done, kind of within advocacy? I want to also introduce the fact that you just finished a boot camp here through the National Parents Union that families can access. So maybe after this, we can tell them how to access that. But yeah, what's the most memorable advocacy work you've done?
Really, the most memorable advocacy work that I have done is when I would go in to meet with the Black Student Union every week at school when they were in school. And being able to just talk to the high school students, understand their perspectives and their experiences on campus. Like, I don't need to look at any data. I don't need to look at any complaints. I just need to talk to y'all, right? And I want to know how you feel. And what we're going to do is stop this continuum of people talking around you, talking about you, but not talking to you. And so how can I help you? And just being able to create that environment to be right, to listen to the youth. The Black Student Union led the way. I helped them to be able to do that. Those were the most precious times in my advocacy, role. And I'm just so amazed at what it did, even just having that weekly consistent visitation for them to know someone has our back. You know what I mean? And they ain't going away. Like, this person is for real, and being able to break through the mold and have those things and efforts that they were attempting appreciated and valued. And so I would say that's been the highlight of my advocacy, is working with you.
And, and someone that looks like them, because that's the other thing, that visual representation. Like, if it does something for us, and we're 40-something-year-old women, right? If it does something for us, can you imagine what it does for you when you're a teenager or a child? Because I did not see myself as a kid. I can't, like, there's just, in so many ways, I did not see myself in that. That led to a lot of challenges that, we're able to overcome. And there's privilege even me be able to like just describe those challenges as opposed to others. But it's really important. So yeah, what a beautiful experience, and what valuable.
In fact, that was their main concern. And they would say, Miss Laster, we have janitors that look like us, maybe some cafeteria people, maybe a coach or two. But other than that, who can we go to, right? And who in authority can we go to with that would understand and be able to relate and then speak to our parents in a correct way too. And what really broke my heart is when, I build relationships with the students, but I also build relationships with their parents, because when they saw that I was consistently there to help their children, that relational capacity was automatically there, right? Yes. What really broke my heart was one night, one of the parents came up to me and said, "Thank you for helping my son. I only wanted him to," she didn't say fit in. She just basically say be accepted, right? How come he can't just be accepted? And I'm thinking, your son is so much more than just an acceptance piece, right? Like, he is a whole human being, And so that's what really one of the touching moments that I got.
Well, and it's sad because the parent didn't say this, but it's almost like more than being tolerated, right? Actually being able to be like your full self, right? And part of that is being able, like we were saying, to see yourself. So I feel you in a lot of ways on that. Let's talk about the boot camp. So you just completed a 3-part boot camp winter boot camp for parents, so that they could learn kind of how to be better advocates, right, for their children. But as I thought about bringing you on, I thought about that I'm a college professor, and sometimes the adults also need to learn how to be able to advocate for themselves within a school system. So, where can people find the information and get us started with what the content was from that boot camp that you think is worth sharing tonight?
Okay, yeah, sure. And so I just finished a 3-week boot camp we did at NPU, and I had some of my wonderful co-conspirators co-hosting with me. Shout out to Shay, Maritza, and Judith for the time that they spent with me on that. We did 3 separate sessions. The first one was based around understanding the U.S. Government structure, right? And separation of powers, checks and balances. I have to say that even if you don't like it, you need to understand it because this is where we live, right?
You're living it right now. So our president did not understand it. So sorry.
Right. I can talk about critiques another day, but it is what it is. The second session was really how do you use persuasive speech, right? The art of persuasion and the use of persuasive speech to get your point across, to get your proposal heard, to get, that collaborative action that you seek. Definitely, was a wonderful time during that time. And then the last one, we did putting it into action. So we basically combined what we learned in week 1 and week 2, and then talked about in week 3, how do you really effectively advocate during a time like this, right? How can you be an activist even in a time like this where things are online, where things are virtual? What is that legislative civic engagement going to look like? And then just giving you the collated toolkit that you could use for your advocacy and activism. And so we put it all together. And I think that, more so what I found was that people were ready for this information. The reason why the boot camp was developed was to really start to develop our communities and parents around legislation, around law, around policy, around code, around civic engagement. And so you're not waiting until adulthood to feel intimidated or threatened or bullied by these types of processes or these fancy sounding names, right? Titles, and that you would approach it with confidence. And so if you guys are looking for that 3-week session, you can definitely look in our video section of National Parents Union Facebook. Also, we have it on our National Parents Union YouTube page. So, or you can reach out to me for it.
And actually, speaking of reaching out, so you have her email address going across the ticker. I also put some of her handles for all of her social media sites over in the comments section. So there's lots of ways to reach out to Christina. What concerns you the most? What concerns you the most around this online education? Because I'm thinking, most of us my life lives in rolls around in semesters, right? But in the second half of the school year, right, for younger children, what concerns you the most as they are going through remote learning?
The concern is consistent for me is that our children already were in what we see as coined the academic achievement gap, right? Mm-hmm. This overarching, slow to move, rigid, just academic achievement gap that they've been clumped into at a deficit, and where the parents and the students get blamed for the lack of outcomes and measurable outputs from the system. But the fact that our children would graduate from that achievement gap, that so-called achievement gap, into the racial wealth gap, that's highly concerning to me, as there were many seniors, high school students that had to approach online learning and really had to figure out, like, am I going to be able to go to college? Am I going to be able to now apply for a job if I graduated in 2019 or 2020, right? Like, what is the outcome of their life in that journey? How did that shape or change the trajectory of their destination? So that's the concerning part. Another concerning piece is those entering students, right? You know, what about those kindergartners? This was their first experience with school. We know that children, as lifelong learners, have to be able to engage in their education and be excited about it, right? And we know that even if children use technology as their preferred activity, such as gaming or video watching or movie watching, it is not the necessary way that they can learn, right? So how are we supporting those children? And very concerned about how are we treating our disabled students, and what message are we sending to them and their parents by saying, you know what, we're not going to serve and support you, even though by law we're supposed to, right? And just seeing the slowness and the rigidity of how effective learning plans, emergency contingency plans are rolled out, and to see parents still debating and fighting for small things, negligible items, computers, access. It's not just about the device, it's about the connectivity too, right? How can my son or daughter access their speech and language pathologist in a way that's gonna be meaningful to help them not be at a gap or a deficit? So, it's those are my three major areas, which would be kindergartners, entering students, those that are graduating, and the special needs population.
I don't have a word yet for 2021, but I've said this word now 2 or 3 times. And so I actually think it's my word, and it relates to something you're saying right now. I think my word for 2021 is one of transitions, and that's just me, And so I think about the kindergartners, and then also the cusp, or those who are leaving high school, leaving college, and trying to get a job, the people that are getting caught in transitions, right? Where they don't have any previous experience to be able to like scaffold or to understand like, hey, this is what this is going to be like. And so their first experience is one in basically turmoil, chaos, uncertainty, right? Where it's not known and it's supposed to be a special time. We want people to start off on the best foot possible. And I think we're pretty certain that most people aren't starting off on the best foot possible. So I'm with you on that. And it's, I can come at it from the instructor perspective, and as you can too, but this year took me by surprise, kind of academically, or this previous semester did. I had taught online before. It was so so let me say this. Not only have I taught online before, I'm also the faculty development coordinator on my campus. There were things I underestimated. I underestimated that teachers, instructors, professors were going to be emotionally struggling as well, on top of having to teach. So this pandemic has revealed so many cracks in the system. And I'm not saying that in an excuse way. It's like, okay, we knew they were there. Now it's showing. We can't do anything about it. And so to your end though, but what we can't keep doing is we can't keep trying to like tape it back up with the same remedy, because the remedy wasn't working anyway. Right.
Right. And that's the thing about it. If you didn't know that deficits existed and cracks in the system existed prior to COVID, you know now, right?
Yes.
So the question is, what are you going to do about it? Because what I do say, and I'm sure you'll appreciate, is that you don't want to normalize this experience for your children, right? Because then that becomes their baseline. And then we know that if that's their baseline, then that's what they're going to look for. This is my baseline experience about education, and this is what I'm going to seek. And this is not normal. There is nothing normal about what has happened over the past year in the learning and educational environment landscape, right? And so that, however, we have to, as parents and community leaders, make sure that this is not normalized, then we definitely need to do that first, because I am concerned about the emotional and social development of children that have begun to believe that this is a normal way of life. And I just have to say that, right? So I just try to make reality checks with my kids. Like, this is not normal. And this wasn't even our normal homeschool life. I'll tell you that. People say, oh, well, we're all homeschooling. No, we're not.
Yeah.
Get that straight, because this is not what homeschooling looked like for us.
At all. No. I totally agree. And then, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought of what I want. Oh, normalization. There we go. I also, I think sometimes we fall into normalization because we want to be comfortable. We don't, as human beings, we don't like being uncomfortable. So we want to make things okay, right? And that is very challenging to be able to say, and more than anything, to be able to live and say, this is not okay. It's what we have to do, but it's not okay because it's our habit to seek comfort.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is something that you guys can learn from the 3 sessions at the boot camp, how not to be a creature of habit, right? And that takes intentional, consistent practice till you master it.
Absolutely. It is. It's a muscle, it's a muscle. And more than just an intellectual muscle, right? That's why I often talk, I feel like anything I do when somebody asks me like for a suggestion, I'm always going back to the same stuff of meditate, sit still, get to know yourself, right? Reflection. All of those things build up the muscles that you need to be able to endure a difficult emotion or a difficult experience so that you can think your way through to a solution, right? But if we all are always seeking for comfort and taking kind of the easy way out, then we're never going to grow, and we are being forced, right, to grow in this year. All right. So what should parents do? I can only hear what you're saying about parents who have special needs children. That has not been my experience, like with my child, and even regardless of her challenges. So I can't imagine. I know other people in other situations where that was the reason why some children had to go to school. And thinking about parents with autistic children. And children needing kind of their aides, or the aides having to go to their actual home and there not being enough aides. What should parents with special needs children, what could they do kind of today, this weekend, next week, to make sure that their child's needs are being met?
Okay, so I'm going to address 2 sets of parents in this, and maybe even 3. If your child was being assessed during the time of this transition and that assessment has not been completed, whether that was for whether or not you were going to have a 504 IEP, you need to push for the completion. The special education services and supports, and the law is clear. It doesn't change, right? And so I want you to make sure that you keep those timelines. You have that communication for your request. The email correspondence is going to count as actual legal correspondence. You keep track of those calendar days, and you set your clock by them and make sure that the district or wherever you're at is in compliance. Okay. If your child already has a 504 or an IEP, I'm going to talk about being unrelenting here because you got to, and I'm sure you recognize this by now. I don't care if you got to tell them we're going to meet and redo this plan every week until you get it right. Okay. So go ahead and get your team ready, because I got my team ready, and we're going to be right in this 504 accommodations meeting until the accommodations are set right to what my child needs. And we're going to be right in this IEP team meeting every week until you guys get it right. And I'm not signing anything until it's actually working. And even if you have signed, that's fine. Call an emergency addendum meeting, whether it's a 504 IEP. Make sure that you're addressing every single goal that is set, how that goal is going to be reached, right? And in what time frame do they expect that? Now, if your student you feel has regressed, you need to ask for an assessment with regards to regression, right? We need to see exactly how much they have regressed and what are you going to do in order to make sure that further regression does not take place. Okay, so those are things that you can do now if you're having issues, concerns about your child's existing plan, or if you were in the middle of an assessment and that hasn't been complete, definitely do those things that I said. Now, I want you to make sure you keep documentation. Don't sign anything you don't agree with. Matter of fact, you can put I don't agree and I'm not signing if you want on there, or you can put I don't agree. And, basically check the box that you're not in agreement, right? Don't feel pressured or forced into making any decisions, because the power over your child's goals and the way that they are achieved is really in your hands, right? So don't let that team say, no, we are going to do it our way, because that's not the case. Okay. Now, with regards to during this virtual learning time, you need to make sure that there's really an emergency contingency plan until your child is back in person learning, right? What is that going to look like? What is that emergency contingency plan going to contain? Make your direct asks according to their goals and find out how much time it's going to take for them to reach those goals, and basically continue to battle for that. Don't let up. If your child needs services beyond what you're getting, contact your medical health professionals, your mental health professionals. Find out if they contract with organizations like Easter Seals, different things like that are still providing in-home services to children of special needs. Don't just leave it in the hands of the school, right? Because you might not know the outcome, and neither do they, right? So what you want to do is really advocate in all spaces, in all realms, for your child to receive every bit of what they should be receiving, and don't hesitate to ask your child's healthcare team for that.
That's, that was one of the things that I wrote down. Like, it's all new, right? There's no our way right now, because any institution's way has had to completely flip and shift, and is different. So like you said, it's all new. With I'm imagining like parents, and imagining parents noticing that their child is regressing, and knowing that their child's at home. I'm thinking of parents who are in really difficult situations that aren't documented, or things like that. So is there any way that a parent now could maybe hold some of the blame for the regression? Does that make sense?
So yeah, it makes sense from the perspective of the system, right? Like, they pretty much have been paid through public tax dollars to provide a service of education to our children, and historically have failed to do so in the ways that we would want our children to be achieving and accomplishing and watching those outcomes, right? A lot of money goes into the system, but what comes out is not what we're looking for. And so really, they blame the deficit on us and our children. And it doesn't matter what the situation, whether it's undocumented or you're Black, right? I mean, it just, this is the way the blame goes. Mm-hmm. And so really, with those parents, parents like what I did should be doing is really seeking who is willing to educate my child during this time, mm-hmm. right? You guys have proven that you don't want to do it. And that's the way we change our behavior. That's the way that we change our traditional thinking and habitual behavior, by saying, you know what, this area over here, they don't want to educate my kid. I am going to find a place and a space, and hopefully you have something of quality in your state, right? Quality options. I am going to find someone in a place that is willing to effectively educate my child and produce outcomes. And yes, there's been this narrative that parents don't care, right? I always say, where is your engagement metric? I want to see the metric. I want to know, are you talking about, like, what are you talking about? Is that measured by I showed up to help my kid today? Or is that measured by I attend all the meetings? Like, how are you measuring that engagement and that care that a parent may have for their child, because I didn't see a chart on. Did you see a chart on that? Yeah, no.
It's usually just a butts in the seats measure. And so, and so when with my question, in no way do I think that it would be the parent's fault. My fear is that a parent would feel like, oh no, I'm the person sitting by my child. So, there's so many ways that assessment, and so this is coming from my knowledge, psychological lens, and also social justice kind of and diversity content. We have used assessment to harm so many Black and brown children,
Right.
And so I would hate for it to be used as another way to harm. And no, I don't think that's, I was going to say, I don't think that that's what's intended to happen.
It happens.
Yeah, but I was like, and then that's what I had to check myself. Like, so anyway, so I would just hate for this to be another way that parents are blamed,
Right.
I do think, it is systemic. It is the responsibility of the institutions and the schools to adapt.
Right. But that adaptability factor, as we have seen over the last, since March of last year,
yes, that going on a year,
the system is not very adaptable. That's why I say they're rigid, right? And so as a parent, your child best. Okay. Don't let anybody classify your child as special needs if they're not. Don't let them be in places where they're not supposed to be. I had children that were gifted and talented in special day classes. That's not where they belong, right? And so this is basically you saying, I'm the parent, I know what's best, and pushing back on anything that is counterintuitive to who your child is and who you know them to be.
Absolutely. And if anyone has any questions, please use the chat. And there's some people, Judith is in here, different people saying hello. Yes. Some of our buddies are here, our MPU. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Does somebody have a question, or you said, can you ask me a question?
Your question about the parents that may be blamed, or, I wanted to make sure I answered that.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, did you answer? I said, can I? Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, you did answer. Yes. No, we're all getting, you guys, I'm still not used to like the Zoom kind of StreamYard world where like we start to talk and then we lose the first part of someone's words. But yeah, no, I mean, just basically what I heard about it was just to not be afraid, right? And to seek the services, to like kind of focusing on, these are my child's needs. Can you provide them? Yes or no, and then to kind of go seek other services right from there. And I think like Easter Seals, all those other organizations that you mentioned that are still providing services, that would be really helpful for them too. So yeah. Yeah.
And, I do have to say that fear is definitely a factor, right? With some people, I mean, like me, I'm an extrovert. Y'all can tell.
No.
Speaking doesn't come very hard, and really advocating for what I want. But if you are someone that does have some fears or apprehensions, find a buddy, right? Reach out to us at National Parents Union. Find someone that is going to say, you know what, I got your back. And I've done this for parents. I told them to put me on their kids' contact list as a contact person, and now let them contact me. And I tell you, those calls and different things kind of they stopped, right? And so find that person that you can confide in, okay, to say, I feel like I'm drowning in this situation. I don't understand everything there is. Can you please help? Don't be afraid to do that, right? Get you a buddy, a network like us, National Parents Union, get you some help. I understand that fear is a factor with some people, and I don't want to like devalue that at all. But there is someone that is out there that will have your back. Link arms with that person. I've done it and just modeled what advocacy looks like. And you know what? Then I was able to back up. Like, whoa, they on fire now. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and lead that. So there's someone there.
It's so true. Even from, I'll offer from a social psychology perspective, right? When we have to do something difficult, when you think about advocacy or pushing against a system, all we need is one person.
Yes.
If you feel like you're not standing alone, you have the support of at least one, right? That will allow people to stand up against different systems that are either oppressing them, that are harming them, that aren't listening to them, that aren't serving them. It really is that power of one. So there, people can, I'm going to put the information back in and I'm just kind of like aware of time, so people can contact you through all of the social media platforms if they need your help, right, to kind of advocate for the kids, if they need you to come teach them something, speak somewhere. What do you wish, like if there's one summarizing recommendation that you have for parents of like, if you don't do anything else, do this for your kids, what do you think is the most important thing for them to do?
The most important thing that a parent can do is not allow their child to be failed, right? Because we know that if they reach a 6-month deficit, they can't make that time up. It's like that catch up. And at that point, they have to constantly have aggressive interventions to make sure that the child is caught up or either ahead. So if you believe that your child is somewhere being failed, remove them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to be more afraid of leaving them there to get filled than to not. And so definitely reach out to me if you're looking for, something, if this category fits you, definitely reach out to me. We're here at National Parents Union to help you thrive and your children thrive, not just barely survive.
And especially right now, because so much is open, right? Meaning like, yes, our children are in districts, but we're all learning online. So they can be served in many different ways. There's one question that just came in and we'll take this. So this is Raquel. She's saying it sounded like you were on this topic, but I may have missed it. With the virtual environment, do you have recommendations for supporting students of color, especially to support them socially?
Yeah, so this actually was something that I was challenged with for my son because, like I said, we were a homeschool family, but a lot of things became virtual, and he's 9, and I didn't want him to have access to that amount of time. But in order for him to see other children that looked like him and be in a group and have those conversations and those dialogues, I did find a network where he meets twice a week, and they're boys his age and they look like him. And you know what? He's gained a lot from being able to participate and communicate for those 2 hours twice a week. So I definitely say, look for, since technology is, right at your fingertips, and that opens up just the world to our children, definitely look for something that's going to match and suit your needs. Maybe it'll be like a group, where the boys just like kind of go over history and they do it in a fun way. That's what they do. Or something else. There is something for everyone. And I think the really great thing about having things virtual is that there can't be any excuses of bringing people of color in front of our children like they're used, in the system.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of there's a service that used to, well, it's called Meetup. I was going to say it used to be called that, but it's called Meetup. It used to be where individuals, right, would set up groups, right? So I'm saying this like for parents, you can connect with other parents and then create those circles as well if they're not existing, right? And it's turned into a virtual platform, right? So yeah, that's what we're trying to harness here, right, at MPU, right? Parents' power. And that's also what I think you were talking about, Christina, too, right? Of like a recognition of the power that we have as parents to be able to support our students in their education, but also to be able to enter the systems of education and say, hey, I now have a 6 months under my belt of co-educating my child with you. And this is actually what I'm noticing that my child needs. And if I'm a parent noticing this, I wonder how many other families and parents are noticing XYZ. And to not feel afraid to ask that, that wall, that invisible wall that existed between education and parents, and we never cross it, right, for whatever cultural reasons, has crumbled, right? And so we need to feel like we can engage in these spaces. Final thoughts, final words, anything that you'd like to say, even if it's what are you doing this weekend to relax? I'm going to give you the last word, Christina.
Yeah, I just want all of you to stay encouraged, right? There are so many things that we can see around us, and things just taking place, and they can be discouraging, but I want you to remain hopeful and remain encouraged. Like I said in the beginning, you cannot predict the future, but we're molders of future leaders, and our children are looking to us for that hope, for that inspiration, for that encouragement, right? So just be really mindful and intentional about how you shift the environment in your home and
Mhm.
what your children are seeing. Are they seeing you sad or are they seeing you happy? And being an overcomer, that's the biggest thing you can teach your children, how to be victorious and triumph over challenges, over obstacles, over things that are just injustices, right? And so I just want you guys to remain hopeful and encouraged.
Yay. Thank you. Yes. And and I will just add, and just be real, like it's okay to say, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm this, and then this is what we're going to do about it. Right. And that action, and that's what you were saying, Christina, action actually works us out of things like anxiety and depression, as hard as it is, right? As discouraged as we feel, as soon as you do something, you kind of start to take back, right, some of that control.
Yes.
So, all right. I want to wish all of you a beautiful weekend. We will be on next Friday. Also, Christina, you have a show. Let's really fast. Let's tell them about where they can find you.
So for more policy and legislation information, you can definitely look on National Parents Union Facebook, where you're watching now, on Tuesdays, and that's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I believe is 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is where I break down education, policy, and legislation bit by bit so that you can understand it. And on Thursdays, I do managing day to day with me, Christina Laster, National Parents Union. Sometimes I have guests there where we talk about real lived experiences and authenticity, just our authentic voices, and how we overcome moment by moment, day by day. So you can definitely check it out. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a show. And please make sure you go to our website at the nationalparentsunion.org. We have collated information, toolkits, data. Our membership applications are there, right? Information that you could use to help you in your advocacy. Be well.
Yes, thank you, Christina. And some of those toolkits are ones that you have actually produced. All right, everyone. So next week, I'm going to have Denise Soler Cox on the show, and we're going to be talking about authenticity. So have a beautiful, restful weekend. Hang in there. It's just the beginning of this year. We are going to get through it. All right, everyone. Take care.